I want my own house in Mississippi.
I would never live in the South.
Bugs are deadly.
That's where
The bugs. No.
The bugs
It ain't about
ain't
the
just
bugs.
deadly. It's
the people.
It's the white moths with them hoods on their head.
Bingo. I would never want to live in the South. I feel like the devil lives there. And when Lucifer fell from heaven, he fell in the South.
The South is well. How do you explain Atlanta? Because
That ain't no better.
all of us went to Atlanta.
Atlanta, but if when I go to get gas, I have to potentially drive through a small backwoods town where people have Confederate flags, I have no desire to live there.
I drove on E through 3 towns.
See,
And I was determined I wasn't stopping.
you
And I
really
told,
was like, either I'm down the side of the road, because if you would have broke down,
I told
it would've been
Jesus.
over for you.
I told Jesus I will starve on the side of the road because I'm not going to even get out the car.
No, because
I'm-
you're gonna die.
I
That's
did-
how I feel.
You know, they still light those candles in their windows.
Yes, it means you can come home.
What?
That's what it means.
Explain what you guys talking about.
Well, you say what you meant first, and I can tell you what it's supposed to be.
What it's supposed to be, because that ain't what it means. Like, you ever in the South or somewhere in predominantly white areas, and you see like a candle or some sort of light in the window, like a bedroom windowsill or something like that.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I was told that it was some sort of like racist connotation where, like, they're basically racist. We don't want blacks around here.
Really?
Light in the window.
A candle.
Yeah, like, because they'll have the Confederate flag on their front porch, and then like pretty much in
I don't
every
need your
window
candle if you got your
But I'm just saying,
You save your candle. The flag tells me everything I need to know.
it may not mean that, but I'm just saying, when you got this candle in every bedroom window in your house, and I see how it's like, yeah, let me keep.
I was under the impression that meant
Matter of fact.
to somebody that's a family member that left the house, you can always come back. It says keep the light, like keep the front porch light on, because you can always come home.
Y'all are just talking about
No.
random things. No. What,
I don't know how we got on that, but yeah, that's what I heard.
I feel like sometimes I saw an article the other day about the South, and there was a man who had went to jail for super petty crime, and he had been sentenced to life for like stealing some spark plugs.
That.
And they upheld the Supreme Justice in that town upheld the conviction for him to stay in jail for life for stealing some spark plugs.
Black man.
Yep. I believe it was like Arkansas or something like that. Well, I don't know.
I think sometimes I wonder, and tell me what y'all think about this.
Well,
Would we be better?
We should just say hi to everybody
hey.
because
What up, yo?
I was doing my research of the candle.
yeah.
I think
Welcome
you're right.
to this episode 1320 stuff. Today we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff, segregation, integration, and how we feel about it. It'll be a super interesting conversation, I'm sure. As you guys know, I'm Lindsey.
Rocco.
Bishop.
Wait a minute. Do we have new names? Did I not get the memo that I should come up with a new name? Anyway, what's your question, Bishop?
No, I'm actually an apostle now. I changed. Just
changed.
the Lord
Just
elevated
said, Bishop.
because he does suddenly. He does sudden works. I do wonder. This is my question though. I do wonder. Those that are watching, you can chime in the comments. Should we have taken the deal that was offered? I think it was Lincoln who basically put a deal in place, and correct me if I'm wrong, basically said, hey, it's not good for us, the white folk, or them, black folk, that, we share this spot to coexist. So we're going to put some money together, give y'all a care package like the college students, when you say college student off, and you go wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember why that deal fell through.
He met with some free black men that were doing well. They were basically, they weren't enslaved. They didn't come from slavery. And he met with, I think it might have been like 7 black men. And he asked them, he presented that deal to them, the possibility of them leaving. And they talked, and they felt that they'd worked hard enough in this country and that they shouldn't have to go elsewhere to establish themselves. So
7 brothers
yep.
is the reason we still here. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
And you can find that on 1619 podcast that I talked about before.
I'm about to Google
That's
it
how
now.
that's the only reason I know that story, because I'm always amazed, and I feel like those are the type of movies we could use, because a few times I've seen movies where they highlight free Black people during slavery and that were prospering or doing well, and for there to be people that a president would meet with to see if they would want to do XYZ, to me says we haven't really been told the full story of Blackness in America, because there were some people that made some decisions that we don't really talk about. And that decision that they made to not leave, I think, definitely affected our lives.
So would you have taken that deal?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't have. And the reason I'm saying I wouldn't have is he asked people that were free.
And if I'm free, then this is irrelevant.
I'm doing fine. No, I don't want to go anywhere. I've established a life here, and a life that is prospering. Now, the people you should have been asking were the people that were
enslaved and oppressed.
Those people may have had a very different feeling about whether or not it was worth staying here. I would say people that were dying and seeing their loved ones die and work to their bone, they might have said, oh yeah, I'll take the deal.
Well, just thinking about it, it seems like it's worse to be integrated with Black folk that don't have concerns for impoverished and marginalized Black folk just because you're free. I don't know if I want to be integrated with them 7. If I'm at the bottom,
right,
and you gonna speak for me but you're speaking based on your comfort.
Correct.
That's I
Well,
almost wish you didn't tell me that. Now I thought I want to be able to blame somebody else.
No. Gotta.
That's bogus.
But I think that the difficulty for Black people in general is that those 7 would have to make a decision about their lives, their offspring lives, their legacy for the whole entirety of the rest of the Black race, because white people are evil and are enslaving them. It's like they have to, and yeah, I think you should have made the sacrifice for sure. But that's always a tough situation that Black people find themselves in. I have to forego my happiness, my comfort for the greater good of the people. And that's an issue that has happened over and over again. We talked about it with the athletes, and we talked about it with Malcolm X, or not Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, or
Colin.
So to make the decision for the people would mean to forego your own comfort, and everybody isn't going to do that.
Yeah, but that is just oppression means someone has to sacrifice for the greater good. To assume that because you're good, everybody should just stick with this. That's yeah, Abe, man, I appreciate the offer, but me and my people, we got a new horse and we got a new carriage.
I think we could put it that way, right? We could, but then we could also think that they could have also thought to themselves, if we're freed here, then our people could one day be where we are.
You almost made me cuss as a pastor. Ain't nowhere in the world you sitting in the White House and you got a little something, but the conversation is around the fact it's not cool for both of us to be in the same spot, and your people are getting the short end of the stick, so how about we let you go on somewhere? And you sit there and say, nah.
I believe they thought about it.
Nah, my tea is, how long they think about it? My tea is going well.
Well, then that begs the question of whether or not segregation is beneficial or not for Black people. Because if there are people, I think that it would just potentially create the issue of socioeconomic status. We will create a social caste regardless.
That's human nature.
Right. You're
gonna have a social caste. That's gonna happen. Jesus said you're gonna always have the poor. I don't think it matters how you chop up society, there are going to be people in each part of that pie that's the bottom crust. And that's just, it is what it is. But when you look at even things like Black Wall Street, it proves that as a people, we have the ability to bring more, or at least the majority, up off the bottom floor. Now, we can't get everybody.
Right. No, and that's just.
But we're going to get a whole chunk of people off that bottom floor.
So was Abraham Lincoln wrong? I mean, because.
To offer the deal?
Low key, I feel like people highlight that Abraham Lincoln said, they try to make it seem like, oh, he didn't really free Black people. He didn't want to. He did it because he knew where history was going, and he knew that was the direction it was going, so he went with it. But he specifically said, y'all, we shouldn't coexist. I would beg that he was right, because we've seen examples of Black people having their own little communities, doing well, not messing with white people, not coming for white people's wealth, building their own stuff in their own little bitty space. And what happens? White people come and burn it down. And so was he wrong to say that we cannot live together? Because no matter what?
Yeah, he was definitely wrong in saying that, because we're supposed to be one race, right? And I get the times that they were
said
in.
we supposed
We've
to be?
never been one race. I feel like even in the Bible, they make a difference. They make
God's
it
eye.
very clear.
There's only one race, and that's the human race. You know that, all that. What I'm saying is, he spoke his mind, right, and saying we shouldn't have to coexist. You take this, y'all go over there, and we're gonna stay over here. But if we're not given the same opportunity and resources to build our own, you can't say here go $50, go make it happen.
So you're more like a separate but equal kind of.
I think, I would agree with
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not so pro-Black that I'm anti-white, especially, and I got white friends. So I got Black friends.
I got Black friends.
It's a couple of y'all on my Facebook. We friends. Especially if we work together. If we work together, we friends. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if the whole separate but equal thing is beneficial to either Blacks or whites, to be honest.
To me, the reality is that people have issue with some that say they would prefer to be segregated. And I think part of that is because integration and diversity has become the sexy thing, especially in the church. I mean, churches everywhere are like, oh, we're diverse, oh, we want to be diverse. And that's just because it's sexy. They don't really want diversity. But the truth of the matter is,
first of all, people think diversity means Black versus white. Diversity is so much more than that.
It's more than that.
But we make it about color.
Well, that's what they want it to be, about color. That's what they just think diversity is. But the truth of the matter is, America is still segregated. I mean, we talk all this stuff. There's a freedom to go where you want. But the way the water moves, everybody ends up back in their same pond. You look at, the schools we grew up in.
We cannot use Chicago. Chicago is the most segregated.
It is the most segregated. But when you look at most of the nation, not all of it, people still live in their separate silos. Their schools still look one particular way, and our churches still, for the most part, look one particular way. It's just slowly changing in 2020.
I'd argue that that's natural. And I'd argue
what's natural
for people to be with people that look like that.
And that's segregation.
Yeah, and I think that segregation is just the way of life. It's just how it works.
Because it's
feel
comfort.
More comfortable
it's
with
comfort.
People that look like you. If you think about like our advancement of technology, it has created a bunch of issues, right? Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, people that live in a certain region will eventually all look similar. If you live in Africa, more than likely you're going to have a darker skin tone, and we already know like your features are going to look a certain way. Now people curious and decided, I think we could put some wood together and make a boat, and then we can go to other lands to see what's going on over there. But the natural way was for people to be where they are. It's not for us to now, I want to be diverse. I think that's like a progressive way of us thinking, and thinking that it should make sense for me to be with people that are different than me. But I think that naturally we gravitate to people that share our same thought processes, that look like us, that think like us, that have the same experience.
Is that bound to color though, or geography?
I think that geography eventually will beget the same, color.
Let me ask you, what's best for humanity, the whole of humanity? Segregation or integration? I have a thought, but I want to ask y'all.
Right now, integration. I don't think we could go backwards.
Why integration?
I think that at this point, where we are in history, there is no way for us to go backwards to segregation. Like I don't think we can even reimagine people's minds to think that it would make sense or it would be okay to separate people in that way. So I think at this point, integration is what it is. It has to be. Especially with the power difference. If we decide integration is not a good idea, then white people are ruling the earth at this point because they have all of the wealth. Now, if it was before the United States came to be and they left Africans alone, then we could do it. But at this point, to make it separate would not work, in my opinion.
What do you think?
No, I agree. And again, because I think none of us lived during the time where we were forced into segregation, so we can just talk about our thoughts and how we would handle it if it presented that platform. So all I really know is, yes, from Chicago, being super segregated, growing up with blacks or whatever. And it wasn't until I went to college that I got a little bit of diversity or exposed to it, even though I went to an HBCU, but it was still blacks coming from east, west, south. So you got a little bit of taste of it. Then you graduate, you go into the workforce, like, bam, here go all these white people. Okay, how do I even act around these people? How do I talk? Do I change my tone and my voice? Do I just smile at everybody? Do I just go above and beyond to make them think something about me because they already have a perception of blacks? And so for me, I think we have come a long way in that aspect as it relates to integration. I think you have to keep down that path. There is no way to go back.
Who's the driving force in how we move forward? The church, the government?
The church is the least.
The church is the least?
To me.
Mm-hmm. Why?
I think
it's an hour a week. It's an hour.
I'm not talking about a church service. I'm talking about the church.
I think at this point, let's be really honest. The church's role, maybe they need to work on their role in people's lives. Because I personally, my generation, I just don't think it has it doesn't play as much of a role in our lives.
Interesting.
Like when you say the church, it's like, what, the hour on Sunday? Or are you talking about something bigger? And I don't know if the church plays that same role that it played in our parents' lives in ours.
I think the church further perpetuates this segregated thought process.
Perpetuates it?
I don't know if it perpetuates it or it just falls in line. Because the churches end up being in the neighborhoods and local people going to their local church. And I also think that I have because I'm always thinking of Chicago, and I have to remind myself that Chicago is very specific, right? And Phoenix, I don't think it's, you know what?
Phoenix is kind of specific.
Actually, they
California,
have black churches.
New York, the two ends of the nation, sides of the nation, are very diverse in how people move and how people flow.
Here's why I think the church will be the least of these that lead the push for inclusion or integration, because black preachers are taught a certain, they come up a certain way. And so you basically take what you're taught, you may tweak it a little bit to make it your own, but then you continue to teach that same thing. And so I don't know many pastors, black pastors, that are willing to step out of their comfort zone to learn something new, learn more about different cultures and people and individuals, to make their sermons inclusive. Because, we're used to the hucking and bucking and clapping and shouting and running, speaking in tongues and all that. You got white people like, oh, what is this circus? And so.
Oh, white people love that.
Some of them.
I feel like they'd be so entertained.
Some
like,
of them.
Oh, the singing was just so good.
But you got some white Pentecostals though that do not fool with regular sermons.
They be hooping.
Yeah,
Talking about?
white
Oh,
Pentecostals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really think to this point, I feel like church, the issue that pastors would have is that it goes back to classism. I think that pastors preach different depending on their audience. If you go to a church that is in a better neighborhood, that has people that are coming to have money, they preach different. They don't preach that you're gonna get a check that you didn't expect to get. They don't teach like God can turn your lights back on because but they don't need that.
They don't need that. Like Paul said, I become all things to all men that I may win them to Christ. Any communicator has to shift based on the people that are in front of them. I do think the issue is not the moments of the presentation. It is the personal lives in which there is no integration behind those scenes. Even churches that talk about diversity, we're diverse, we got a few. Most of the leaders, and again, most. So if your church don't fit in this, don't send us letters and email telling my pastor has 5 black friends, whatever. Most of them do not have relationships in their personal space with people that don't look like them. I know personally several, and when I say personally, I mean I have their number, I can text, I know them. Several, let's say 9 white pastors. Of those 9 white pastors, 7 of them, I'm the only black person they talk to. And I know this because they've said it.
But why is that?
Darryl, I don't know what it is.
Because I think it still has to do with socioeconomic status. Even if because I think that sometimes we think of diversity as just color. And yes, that matters. You have a board of directors and you want to have some other races and some different sex in there. The issue is sometimes they'll have black people in there, but the black people, they don't really represent or they don't really have the experience. I mean, like obviously you black and like if you get pulled over and all of that. But I'm saying diversity has to do with experiences also. It's like, do you really identify with a different way of living? And sometimes you can have black friends, but they came up with money too.
So let me ask you this. So we all agree integration is the way forward, right? So let's put this in the context of a romantic relationship. All right, you got 2 people coming together. Now I know integrate is more than just black and white, but black and white is the big thing. So let's go with that. You got 2 people coming together. You got the white race, you got the black race. They're integrating. They get married. All right. Anybody entering into a relationship, both sides, somebody got to give up something to make it work. Compromise, right? What is it that has to be compromised on both sides, taking America today, to move forward? What has to be compromised on this side and on that side for us to integrate and to move into one house? Because you do reach a point sometimes where it's like, this just don't work. We can't live. So what do we do to make it work?
Well, I don't think that you're marrying the black and white races together. I don't think it's anything that we have to give up because we've always been fighting for fairness or our part or equality. So we've been fighting trying to prove ourselves that we're not these animals that we are perceived to be, or you base it based on.
So does that say we have no flaws?
No,
okay.
We all have flaws, but I'm saying, but what I will say, what needs to be compromised on the white side is the mentality and their thought process of how they see us, because it's how they see us, which makes them treat us a certain way. And so that's what they have to be willing to compromise on that and erase that and go back to get to know individuals for themselves, because what they see is what's portrayed of us on the news, black on black crime here, the gangs of the drugs, but it's happening in the white communities too. It's just not publicized. And so they see us as these vicious animals. That's why Karen and all her sisters can walk down the street, and as I'm coming toward them, you want to grab your purse. Now, if I just yell when I walk past you, you jump and scream, then that's a whole nother thing. But it's that because you see something on TV and you think we're all like that, but I'm just as smart and articulate as you, and probably more well off.
It's hard to enter into with someone that's scared of you. Like, how does that even go? How does dinner go like that? You got the steak knife. I can't get a steak knife because you think I'm gonna throw it at you. Like, that's a hard thing.
It's actually judgment on both sides. So let's say we got this 5 white family members, 5 black family members. We all sitting down for dinner, and now everybody's in their head thinking about, how do I respond to this? How do I talk? How do I eat this food? Do I put my elbows on the table? Can I cut with a knife? Like in the black community, we standing up, got a chicken wing in his hand, singing a song. They all might sit down and have a real quiet dinner, talk about how was work, how was school. Like, it's kind of like, so it's like, how they gonna perceive us? So everybody at this dinner table is all uncomfortable because nobody's really being real.
I feel like the way that we can move forward is for black people to get 50% of everything.
Like a prenup.
Yeah, 50% of everything. Like 50% of media, 50% of like the networks, 50% of the wealth.
Who gets 50%?
Black people.
What black people?
We'd have to pick.
Who picking? Now you do it.
We doing a lottery.
We
Put
doing
your
a
name
lottery.
Give us 50% of the board seats. Give us 50% of the ownership. There are people that are in position.
Tanisha.
Now we can pick people that's already in that field. There are people that have paid dues, that have put in work, that have worked super hard, and they don't get the same level of.
But you still now you putting it in the hands of the same 7 jokers who said we didn't need to leave.
Yeah,
Who's guaranteed that them 7 gonna give it to us?
Well, now if the white people have 50% and the black
Then it's
people
gonna be
have
some
50%,
black on black crime.
Then why won't they just help us out?
Because if you get 50% of NBC and I don't see nothing, we gonna be black on black crime.
Like the media controls the way people see us.
Right.
If black people had news networks and they were as profitable
But this is the
and had
thing.
as much money.
We've had it. What's the name that owned BET and he sold it.
BET is a cable channel. I'm talking about ABC,
But
CBS.
BET grew. It could have become more, and he sold it. You have now. I don't know what they do in their private space. I don't know what they do with their money. But the reality that we do know and we can see is you do not have the Jay-Z's, the T.I.'s, the Masterpiece, which is all thing of Masterpiece. You do not have all these extremely wealthy, Oprah and them. Oprah started a network, but if all of them came together, they could do obscene things. Now, I don't know what the conversations are behind the scenes. I mean, Tyler Perry built his own studio.
Them people not letting us take over that stuff. That's what I'm saying. We need to split it down the middle.
But this is my thing. If all of them power people came together, we could take.
I'm saying, let's not have to take.
You want to just be giving
down
away.
The middle. We built it.
How you getting the 50% to everybody's city?
And we need to give reparations. Give us reparations. 50% of ownership goes to black people.
So integration for you requires 50% of everything and reparations.
Hell yeah.
How do you define what those? What is the cost? What is the
They
reparations?
know how to figure that out. Okay.
Who is they?
These white people. Okay, because
You want the abusive spouse to determine what the abused get.
they know how to decide. When I saw my pastor did some service about slavery, and when they abolished slavery, the white people came together.
They had an
decided
amount of what each slave was worth and
that
what the
the
slave
slave
master
owners
should
got.
get. Exactly.
Oh, you know how to figure out how much money people were supposed to get because you paid slave owners because they were losing their property and did not give us
They
reparations.
paid themselves.
Okay, so get the 50% of the
don't
black people
trust
that we putting in power. let
So
them decide.
what is the compromise then? What do you feel needs to be compromised from the black perspective and the white perspective since you're marrying the two together?
You know, and that's something I'm still actually sitting here thinking through. I do think part of it is on white side, the mentality. I think on the black side, we have to give them, and that's a hard thing because it's like we didn't give you so much space. I want to say give them some space.
Ain't nothing we can do.
I don't know.
No, you got to be all up in their face. You got to make them uncomfortable to the point where now they.
We already make them uncomfortable at breathing.
Well.
You know what? I'm sick of it.
So I don't.
It ain't nothing for us to do because it isn't our problem. It isn't a black problem. It's a white problem. White people all of this, like the slave mentality is not just for black people. The slave mentality is white people too. And they inherently think that they are better. even the ones that think they're good people, even the ones that want to be good people, if they find themselves in a position where a black person challenges them, they automatically reset to this space where they know, oh no, you shouldn't be able to talk to me that way. Oh, you shouldn't be able to do. And that's what we see in those Karen videos every time. These are probably nice little people 99% of the time. But anytime that they feel challenged by black people, they automatically revert back to this idea that somehow I am better than you. And that ain't a black problem. That's a white problem. And we can come up with solutions of what black people can do, and what black people done tap danced, done became president, done became Oprah. Black people have persevered. Like, if we really, like, we all know that slavery was a travesty. But when you really read the stories, the level of evil that was done on a people, and for us to still persevere, for there to be black people in the world that make more money than white people, like white people that are broke, I have no sympathy for you. What are you broke for? Why you don't have nothing? Okay, you came out 10 steps ahead. That if you don't have nothing, I don't have no sympathy for you.
Is that fair?
I don't care.
That's my
Because if
You came out with an 800.
You was born with 800 credit score. Mine was 400.
Somebody with nothing can literally pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get out of there.
Ain't no bootstraps.
Black people have proven
My Jordan straps.
that they're worth it, and white people need us to be inferior. That is them problem. They have to figure that out. And if we gonna say that we can't trust white people to figure it out, and we don't want to put it in their hands, then the only other option is World War III.
My Lord.
No, that ain't no option, because we gonna lose. We ain't got enough guns, we ain't got enough people. But this is my thing. I hear what you're saying, but in light of how you started the conversation, informing us that Lincoln goes to 7 of us with this presentation. Now, I don't know if, there's a whole story, and you're right, this could be a whole movie, TV show, because the question becomes, how did he pick those 7? How did he know those 7? How did those 7 get the invite?
These were apparently well-known, very successful black people.
And how did those 7 become successful in an era of slavery?
And that's what really we need. And see, and I think sometimes I literally struggle with the idea that this black struggle is also a weapon used by white people. This idea that like white people were so terrible and like black people didn't have nothing to do with it, and it just happened to us. It's hard for me to make sense of that, because you can meet black people, like the power behind black people. It's hard for me to believe they just went into a country unknown to themselves and took a bunch of people.
They
clearly
did.
Black people, clearly Africans
So
did that.
we was over in South Africa, and I never forget, one of the people on the bus with us, they asked our tour guide, and it seemed like a juvenile question, but she was sincere. She was like, well, it was more of us, y'all, here than them, because he was talking about apartheid and all this stuff. Why didn't you just take over? And he made an he gave an historical fact. He said, basically, they were trained to fight tribe against tribe. So they were always fighting against themselves. And so I'm like, well, how did that even start? Because somebody was like, well, did the white person start He said, no, it started because when the white man came over, there was one particular tribe that they say the chief of that tribe is the one that allowed the white man into the country to take. And so because of that tribe, all the others started hating that particular one, and that started the infighting. So with that in mind, my thing is still, how do you trust the 7? Because even if you get white people to say, and again, white people as a whole, to say, hey, we're going to give y'all 50%, we're going to do this.
Well, I mean, but you're taking a chance. You're taking a chance with anything. Just like how, these white politicians and during civil rights, Kane and Dr. King want to have conversations. I mean, who's to say he can't speak for all blacks, but again, he was identified as the leader.
But he wasn't rich, and he wasn't doing well.
Right.
He wasn't well.
And I'm not talking against it, but I'm just saying how they went to him as
you had a split.
The spokesperson.
You had some went to Martin, some went to Malcolm.
But both of those people were in the same position.
Same
as most of the
position.
people around them. Now going to Bill Cosby may be different because his experience or where he was in life.
Is he
was
getting
different.
visitors?
Huh?
Is he getting visitors?
He said,
I feel
I'm
like maybe
legally
that's
blind. I
What,
can
but
see
back to
barely.
what you asked, I feel like maybe that's what Black people have to do.
What?
Which is not betray one another. Like we have to have some sort of unity amongst ourselves because I think that always ends up.
so what
I
is
don't want to integrate with the little thieving
So-
7 Negroes.
So where does this come from, the whole idea? Because I feel like it kind of dates back to Bible days, and you being the bishop, prophet, apostle that you are.
Apostle.
Do you think it was creation was formed this way, and it's just kind of this whole trickle down effect? Because back in the day,
everybody
we
was
like
the same.
in our own?
It's when you get to the Tower of Babel that God separates everybody and imparts people, and divides everybody up, because man is trying to build this tower to heaven, and depending on what theologian or historian you talk to, the reason man is trying to build this varies. Some suggest it's instigated by the devil, some it's just the ambitions of man, but then that's when God breaks everybody up and sends everybody separate ways. Prior to that moment, it is believed that the majority of humanity is birthed out of Africa. Again, this is where you get the reality, I know some of y'all gonna be mad, that Jesus is not European, he's not white, he's not this idea that we see. Everybody's birthed out of Africa. So most of humanity at this point kind of looks like us. There is a moment in Genesis 6, 7, something like that.
This
What?
conversation sound. It's like this was like the conversation Nick Cannon was having. It was starting just like that. And I was like, where you going with it at now?
Well, I'm saying it. I'm the apostle. I'm saying it. But you have this moment where it is believed that these fallen angels come down, mess with human women, things like that. That is believed to be another moment in which there is a separation of DNA and people changing. So you have consistent moments throughout history.
You think white people are the fallen angels?
I don't think they are the fallen angels, Farrakhan.
Some part of me be thinking like somebody is evil, and I'm thinking.
I think the evil, this is in the context of theology, not sociology, anything like that. I do believe that the evil that is in human people, even whether it's one particular group or multiple groups, came from connections to the demonic.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone just came up and was just like, yo, we about to murder all these cats.
I'm sure that's.
If somebody was like, hey, what's the little glowing red guy over in the corner? Come on over and play with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when it started.
Look, so I know we almost at time, but I want to pose a question to our viewers here, and I want to ask them.
Says Nick Cannon. Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on segregation versus integration? Do you think we as African Americans will be better off segregated or integrated? Give us your thoughts. Tell us why. We look forward to hearing from you all. I'm pretty sure we'll be revisiting this topic again real soon, especially if Lindsey has anything to do with it.
If Lindsey has something to do with it, we gonna be good because we got 50% of everything.
And we want our
I
reparations.
bet you want that 50% too.
Oh, I want it. I just don't want it to go to Tony and
Listen.
Ray
We
Ray,
can
who I don't know who they
decide.
are.
But in the interim, I just want another stimulus check, and that'd be greatly appreciated.
Who would I vote for if I had to pick somebody to decide that?
I want a bigger stimulus check.
That is true. I'm just
I
stick
don't
to
want
my
Oprah getting my
susus for
money.
now.
I think I want Jay-Z to go pick up my check.
All right.
All right, it's time to go. We out of here. We out of time. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.
What's that? I remember one time my grandmother was making something in the kitchen, and on the counter she had eggs, she had flour, she had sugar, she had frosting. By the ingredients set before us, I gathered that she must be making some cake. And I watched her as she beat the eggs. I watched her as the flour was thrown in. I watched her as she mixed these ingredients together, put them in the oven for a little bit under some nice warm 400-degree temperature. And she pulled out something that did not look like what it started as. Something that started as a segregated group of ingredients, various textures, various colors, various backgrounds, one thing coming from a chicken, one thing coming out of the ground, one being man-made, have now come together, have been integrated to create something with a very amazing taste. Think if America ever realizes that it is not a bad thing to mix the ingredients, not a bad thing to become one. Though we all lose some of what we once were, the end product is much, much sweeter. I would dare you to try a piece of cake. You might like it. Thank you for watching 1320 Stuff. Catch you again later.